Well, last year Triumph made us all excited when they introduced and widened the range of their products, introducing the motocross 250cc bike. By end of the year they introduced also the 450cc bike, but now we are here in Spain to test the brand new 2026 Enduro models. Really interesting to see Triumph going full in on the off-road market, and they're doing it at the top level, because when we start looking at the bike, this is not your motocross bike just with the small refinements. There are many differences. Starting from the external, we have a specific seat for enduro riding, so it has a pyramid texture. This gives you a lot of grip when you're riding. Also on the side you have a different fabric in order to lengthen the life of the seat, because you know where we rub with our knees, we tend to wear through the seat cover. Then we have a 10mm longer swing arm that gives a better stability to the bike, but at the same time we have Kayaba suspensions, rear and front fork. The front fork is 13mm, shorter travel than the motocross, so we have 300mm travel on the fork. Regarding the weight, we have on the 250 114 kilos and on the 450 117 kilograms. Power wise, 42 horsepower and 59 horsepower, so a considerable power to enjoy and have fun when riding enduro. The fuel capacity clearly is more than the motocross bike. We have 8.3 liters, but when we start looking inside the engines, the crank, the camshafts, these have been designed specifically for enduro riding, like also the mapping and the gearing ratio. On both bikes we have 6 gears. This lets us find a solution for every situation. Some other very cool things that Triumph is using on their bike is that they're having different CNC machine parts, like the triple clamps, which usually on standard enduro bikes they are fused triple clamps. Then we also have CNC machined hubs. Clearly we have 21-inch and 18-inch wheel on the rear. The braking system is Brembo with Galfer brake discs, 260mm on the front and 220mm on the rear. The bike then has handguards and has a fan on the radiator, so that even when you get stuck in the trails you won't cook your bike. As an additional accessory, you can also purchase the Wi-Fi module that will let you connect with your smartphone directly to the ECU, and it will also unlock the feature of other 6 maps that have been developed for different enduro situations. So you'll see now on the screen the different maps, their names is not just 1, 2, 3 and so on. For me this is a must-have accessory. Furthermore, you'll be able to check, you know, the hours on your bike, so very useful for servicing. Something interesting then that Triumph put effort in was the headlight. They have LED headlight on front and rear, but on the front you see how quite wide and big the headlight is, because a very cool thing of Triumph is that in the company basically everyone rides, from the engineers to the management, and that I believe makes a difference in the development of the product, because they realized when they were test riding the bikes, and this I'm speaking even the managers of the company were test riding the bike, and they found in Wales, where it gets dark very quick, that they needed a headlight that wasn't just a headlight, but that would really provide you with light when you end up riding at night. Furthermore, I love all the refinements on the engine and the frame. I think this frame is really beautiful, like the aesthetic of the bike, this black and white. I think it has one of the coolest looks on the enduro market. But now with no further ado, I'll tell you what I think about these bikes and how they handle. Okay, we did the warm-up now. I went with the 450, already enjoyed it really a lot. Now we start for a loop. We'll make some adjustments on the bike and then do the morning on the 450 and the evening on the 250. But for me, the first thing I can really feel is how well the front end handles into the turns. The bike and the frame, the chassis feels very light and very easy to ride. Tom, you had quite a bit of time on the bike. If you had to describe it in one word.
Mega, that's all I can say.
And between 250 and 450, which is the bike that you personally have fun more?
For me, The 450 is a great bike. It's what I've rode for many years. I really enjoy riding it. It's particularly like the bike I would go to straight away. The 250 for me is more of a fun bike. When I take it out in the mountain, I enjoy it in a way that I can play. You can pull wheelies, endos. It's really light, agile. I like the torque of the bike, but the 450 is my go-to bike.
And what is, in your opinion, the best quality of these new Enduro models?
For me, there's no best quality. The quality is in the product. The motor, the way that it's completely different from the motocross bike, you know. Having the Enduro crank and things like that make this bike unique to Enduro is a big selling point. And especially when you're riding Enduro and in the mountains here, you could feel it, whereas a motocross bike would be nearly unrideable in these conditions. So yeah, from Trio's point of view, getting these bikes with a proper Enduro engine is a massive step forward, and you know, hopefully people are going to really enjoy it.
Thank you.
No problem.
Well guys, end of the day, after this whole day of testing, and we have a huge problem. I can't choose which bike I prefer more, if I want the 450 or the 250, because they have totally different characters, but they're so fun to ride. And for me, immediately when we started with the warm-up this morning, what I felt was how easy these bikes are to handle and to enter turns. You feel a great confidence on the front end. It's like when you have a very tight turn, it just turns and you don't need to put, you know, physical effort. Combine this with an awesome power delivery, very different between the 250 and the 450. But before speaking about the power delivery and the difference in feeling on the two bikes, I want to first share my feeling overall globally on these bikes, because clearly they have the same chassis, the same swing arm, and a lot in common. Suspension wise, I think Kayaba did a very good job, and I believe in the Enduro segment as OEM suspensions, we are on the top level. The fork has really good dampening on the last part of the travel, and the first part feels almost too soft. But in reality, what happens when we are riding, especially in the special test, when we go into turns, the fact that the first part of the travel is so soft, it lets you move all the weight of the bike on the front, and this makes it sharp in turning. On the rear, I made a few tweaks. I slowed the rebound and also stiffened the compression. I'm over 100 kilograms, so I wanted the bike to be a bit more pointing on the front rather than sitting down on the rear, because also in these conditions of wet conditions, I wanted to have a very good front end feeling. Something I appreciate a lot these bikes for is the tires they're equipped. They are equipped with the brand new Michelin Enduro 2 competition tire. I think this is probably the best tire in Enduro situation. It's incredible how this sort of V-shape manages to give you traction in so many different situations, and at the same time, when the soil is quite soft and you have ruts, it really makes you shoot out of the turns. So handling wise, they were both very easy to ride, very intuitive, and even though they have a longer swing arm, the feeling was of a bike that's very short and that you can place wherever you want and do tight turns. One thing I must say is that another small tweak I did today on both bikes was the steering stem. I tightened a bit the steering stem because I felt that as it is stock is a bit too loose, but by tightening it together with this suspension and this frame, I was having great stability going through loose rocks. And also when we started the slippery section, like sometimes we would have rocks on the side, and instead of having my handlebar go like this, like I would have all the bike head together, and that gave me good confidence and a good feeling on the wet section. sections. All bikes clearly have their advantages and disadvantages, and if I'd say their downside, what I felt is that the rear brake in situations of going steep downhills for a long time, you tend to cook a bit the rear disc. In fact, the travel of the lever lengthened more during some sections of the track. I believe that this small issue comes from the rear brake disc, from the design of it, because we have Brembo calipers on the front and on the rear, and also the master cylinders, but the disc, probably the design, you would want a disc maybe a bit thicker so that it can dissipate the heat more. So if I had to find something I didn't really like, that was the rear brake feeling when put under stress. I found then quite a good consistency on the maps on both bikes. When you're riding in map 1 and you switch to map 2, any rider, even a mature rider, can feel the difference. And it happens sometimes that we get a bike and we change between map 1 and map 2 and you don't really understand which is the soft map and which is the aggressive map. On these two bikes you can really feel the difference. If then you also add the traction control, is like riding two complete different bikes power-wise, because with traction and map 2, the bike lets you find traction everywhere, even on the very slippery rocks. Clearly, it doesn't pull you out of rocks and soft terrain, but for amateur riders, I believe map 2 will be the map you're gonna end up using more. Then, big difference between 450 and 250. On the 450, basically, you can almost ride all the time in third gear, because the power is so smooth and the usage in third gear is really wide. For me, one of the things I enjoyed most was the power delivery. On the 250, you have a bike that is just like sparkling water. It just makes you want to rev up that engine, having really a bottom end good power. So even in enduro section, when you want to lift the bike, and especially you're in map 1, you always have exactly the power you want to the throttle. The sensitivity you get to the throttle response on both bikes is incredible. Just you manage to get out exactly the power you want and the progression also that you want. The 250 targets, I believe, more your extreme enduro riders, young kids, and who does maybe races. Instead, the 450cc bike, even though it's very capable in enduro tight sections, as you'll see from the onboard, it has so much power, but it's so smooth on the bottom end that anyone that's doing faster stuff, and like if you ride rally and if you ride more in dual sport style, you'll definitely love this bike. For me, this would be a wonderful bike for rally racing, because it's just the power is infinite. You can go, and having the 6 gears on both bikes means you always find the right gear for every situation. But also when you put the sixth gear is like when you have really fast sections, which you wouldn't expect on the 250, because on the 250, when you have some very fast section or you're doing some long liaison on the road, that it would pull back. But when you put the 6th gear, seriously, you can get to an incredible speed and have the engine not screaming at high RPM. This said, I'd love to have both bikes because the riding style is a lot different. The 250cc almost feels like a 125cc, so you ride it much more. It feels very light. Even though there's only 3 kilograms of difference in weight, you feel the 250 as if it was way lighter than 3 kilos. Still, the 450 of all the enduro bikes I've tried feels very light, easy to ride, making both these bikes enjoyable both by pro racing riders but also fun for amateur riders. If then you add also the Wi-Fi module, you'll extend of other 6 maps that you can put on your bike. Now, I won't lie to you, but I've loved so much and had so much fun riding the 450cc bike that I believe I'm gonna get one of the TF450E as my own bike to race maybe during the year some rallies and some enduro races. Now guys, let me know down in the comments what you think about these bikes, if you're excited that we have another brand coming in the off-road market. I enjoyed a lot this press launch because not always we get the chance to try the bikes in so many different terrains and so many different styles of tracks and trails. Be sure to subscribe to my channel and to my Instagram page. I'll see you in the next one. Ciao!